Hey guys, welcome to Live Mekudesh, our renewed heart new moon study for this month. We're on our second month. We're just coming out of Egypt, coming out of Mitzrayim, and we're heading out to the wilderness. And so I just love the imagery and the picture that gives between now and Shavuot, really putting yourself in that that journey yourself, and you can really see like the way the spirit moves in that, and you can learn from the journey of the Israelites, and then looking even in the New Testament, from the Passover until Shavuot for them, what were the differences? What did they, how did both of those camps react? And there were totally different types of circumstances, but there's still things that we can learn in both of those situations. And so that's one of my favorite parts about this, is just like thinking like, okay, it's the 15th day of Iyar of the second month. So what was happening on that day? And sometimes we have those dates in the Bible for us, or we can at least tell when they made it to Mount Sinai. I think it says it came to Mount Sinai on the first day of the third month. So everything that happens between, the walking out, we get to the end of the first month, and then we start seeing all of those things. So that happen in the second month, and there's so much that happens. And so this like jam packed. And so I'm looking forward to talking about that tonight. And one of the things I want to do, like, obviously this isn't creation gospel class, but if anybody is out there, if you want to type it in, if you don't want to put it in, but I was wondering if anybody could tell me anything about the first month, like what the tribe was, what the sense was, if you remember that, maybe some of the medots or anything like that. Was there anything that like stood out to you? So I'm just wondering, does anybody got anything? Does anybody remember what last month's tribe was?
Judah.
Yep. And Christy got it online. Good job, Christy. And what about the sense?
Speech.
The sense is speech, right? And so our senses just aren't like smell, taste, touch, though it throughout the year, well, it'll encompass those, but it also does other things like we did sleep when we were in the winter months. And so speech is the sense for this month. And so, or for last month, last month. And so I really am into like how things flow together, because that's the way the Father does that. So if you're in creation gospel class right now, you may have heard me talk like that, or you've heard me talk on here like that, is that we are flowing. And so instead of just seeing the second month just like it is, or, okay, it's just this set of facts, this is the only thing that happens, begin to see how it flows together. And so last month we were talking about the declarations, right? We were talking about declaring, we are free from the bondage that either we have put ourselves in, circumstances that have put us in, like, Father, like, this is a month I am walking out of this. I am not letting, my anger, my unforgiveness, my doubt, these things, we're taking those and we're walking out of that. And so that brings us into the second month. And so we're going to continue on with those ideas. We're not leaving those declarations behind. And so one interesting thing to do is to really see like those senses put together. And so when we talk about this month's sense, which will be thought, so those things that we declared and talked about in our speech and the praise that we had, if you think about like in your own life, like walking out or saying these things, like, right, like I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to do it, like, all right, this is the time, this is the week, this is the month, I'm going to get healthy. We do these, it's almost like, doing like a New Year's resolution, but we say these things like, I'm going to read the Bible more, I'm going to do this. And then the thoughts start happening. So it may seem weird that the speech, is coming before, but sometimes we're ready either to say something negative or to say something like good, like we're going to do it. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to do it, but like, it's my birthday. So I want birthday cake. And so I find that if I say, okay, just for special occasions, there's a special occasion every day to eat chocolate, as far as I'm concerned. And so I can find the ways, and it may be like doubt. It may be the fear of something like, oh, like I really want to do that, or maybe I just don't have time. So we start like internalizing all these things. And so that's some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight. So if anybody has any questions or concerns right now before we get started, and I will get my screen shared. I get all these notifications that come up on the corner of my computer when I first open it up. It drives me crazy. All right, share screen. And it's not on there for some reason. Hold on just a second. There it is. It was behind you guys. I had my Zoom was over it. All right. Now I'm gonna share screen. All right. I'm going to minimize so I can't see you guys. So remember, if you have any questions, just go ahead and unmute and holler at me if you need to. So let's go ahead and let's say here it is. I have our blessing for the month. So let's go ahead and pray. Oh, Father Yahweh, we just praise you and thank you. You are King of the universe. You created the skies with your word, all the heavens host with the breath of your mouth. You gave them appointed times and roles, and they never miss their cues. Father, we just thank you and praise you for that. And we just pray over this coming month, the second month, that it would be a month of blessings, blessings of goodness, blessings of joy, peace, kindness, friendship, love, creativity, strength, and serenity, fulfilling work and dignity, satisfaction, success and sustenance, physical health, Father, and radiance. May your truth and justice guide our acts and compassion temper our lives, that we may blossom as we age and become our sweetest selves. May it be so. Love those prayers that Rhonda puts together for me. Okay, Lev Mekadesh, our renewed heart. So here we are in the second month. And so you'll see here we have, we're going to be talking about our thought life. We just talked about that. We have our bowl of presumed manna there, and we're counting. We're our little kids at the bottom that are counting. Every day we have that chance to count and take an accounting. And so we're going to be talking about like how those work together. And over here with the nails, we have Vav is our connector. And so this is kind of that connector month. And Iyar means light, or it has like the connotations, like, the word for light in Hebrew is or. So Iyar, they connect it with that, but they also put it as an acronym for Yahweh is my healer, Rapha. So Yahweh is Rapha. And so they have made an acronym out of that too. And so because of that, Iyar is considered a month of healing, like be needing that and declaring that. And this is just especially coming off of like the feast and all of the bread. If you were eating unleavened bread, and if that's not something if you do the command, like to, some people do it like where you have to eat unleavened bread every day. And some people just like to eat it every day. We do. But sometimes that can affect you if you're not used to maybe eating that much. Or if you were feasting with a group of people, maybe you overfeast. We do this at Tabernacles. So after Passover and after Tabernacles and after certain times, it's really good just to give your body that cleansing. And this is a great month to do that in. I'm doing that right now. I haven't eaten I didn't eat Monday, and I'm not eating today. So I've been drinking some things and got my water. So my mouth, it feels really, I've been drinking, but my mouth is like really dry. So I'm gonna have to stop and drink water while we're doing this. The other name for it is Ziv, which is splendor or brilliance, and brilliance like a flower. And if you, I think it's in Luke where, consider the lilies, right? And Solomon, he's known for his splendor. And of course, he built the temple, the splendor of the temple. And he began that in the month of Ziv. That's where we get that word in the Bible, in the word. And it's the second month. And you can see that in 1 Kings 6 is where it gives that designation of the month. And so, so that's where our names and our meanings come from. And from that, we also pull from some of our themes that'll come along. So some of the things that happened is that Israel came to the desert of Sin, or it might have been Zin, but Sin, in the 15th day of the second month. And there they grumbled about food, and the Holy One provided manna and quail. This was before the big quail incident later. This is just the first time. So they left Sinai on the 20th day of the second month and traveled from place to place until the cloud rested into the desert of Paran. And then every day has a mitzvah. So it's a like super special month that every day has a mitzvah that we can observe. And we do that by counting the Omer. Some of our numbers and numbers in the theme. So number is number 2 because it's the second month. And so we have that idea 2, you could think of like dividing or multiplying. And sometimes we need both of those. So we talk about contronyms, which division can be good and it can be bad. Sometimes you need to be divided out, separated out. And then sometimes division is bad when someone is trying to cause division or using divisive language. So those things are things to be wary of. And then you have the multiplication side. Multiplication and double blessings is really, good. And my paper here is really good. Are we blessing others? Are we multiplying the blessings? And this is the month to really kind of take that in. And where is a way that we can give? So a lot of times people who are doing the Omer count are using maybe some type of devotional or an app or something that will give them some like a characteristic to work on. And some of that has to do with like our generosity and our hospitality and our love for others and our compassion for others. And so this is a time to begin to multiply those types of characteristics. So our actions and attitudes decide which way it goes. Are we divisive or are we multiplying? Because if we're multiplying, if we're showing light, that splendor from even just the name that we get from Iyar, Ziv, that's going to multiply the people who are around us. And if we are continually bathed in that light, then we're going to continue to see that multiplication because people are drawn because we genuinely love and want to serve them. Beit is the second letter. Beit is the house, and it's related to a building, a tent, or it's related to building. So it's a house or a tent, and it's related to building. So if you're Creation Gospel, which I know many of us are, if you think about building, you have to separate things out. So that's where that division or separating might be a good thing. So you might say, you have to get everything out and see what all is there. And if you've ever built, like when I was in college, I was like the queen of solder furniture, right? So I had solder drawers and solder shelves and solder everything. And so I would buy it from where Walmart and bring it home, and I was the one putting it together. And so you lay out the stuff out and you're saying, okay, what do I have here? What do I need? How does this go together? You're looking at the directions, you're seeing what has, and sometimes there's things there that like they'll put in extra that you don't need. And so you have to say, okay, well, I have extra of this. I don't need this. Is this something I can give away? Is this something I don't need? And so we can apply that spiritually to our own lives. And so, yeah, just taking stock of what we have, discerning what we have. Discernment is part of that second day. And we're taking and accounting. And so it says the Father's going to do this with us too. We're gathered together. We're going to be gathered, and he's going to take an account of our actions and our deeds. We also have second chances in this month. So we have Pesach Shemini. And so that's the second Passover. So if you were not prepared, if you were not clean to, usually had to do with death, or you were out far enough you could not make it back because Pesach was a foot festival, then they gave you that second chance at Iyar, the twilight of the 14th of Iyar. And the number 2 also makes me think about being sanctified for a purpose. So that separating is good when it fulfills a purpose, right? And we know that purpose is going to lead to a gathering. We're waiting expectantly in anticipation during this month because we're counting up to something. It's not a countdown, we're counting up to and anticipating what the Holy Spirit is going to pour out. Because of that Vav and because of that connecting month where it's the time of transition. And so we see that in the Israelites, that it was a time of transition for them. I have another number 1 because other stuff came to me like later. And so some of it may be repeat, but that sanctification was really speaking to me. The Israelites were separated for a purpose, right? And if that's what sanctification means, if you look it up, the dictionary, Google, whatever, sanctification is being separated for a purpose. So they had been redeemed, right? That's what taking them out of Israel, they had been pulled out of there. And now the sanctifying process was happening. And then we talked about building already, discerning and separating. So during the wilderness, what they were doing was gaining the understanding, which Bina, which also that is our second Holy Spirit. That's the second spirit of Adonai for creation gospel. So it's pivotal in our walk. If we don't have that in-between time, this ER time, this transition time, this connecting time in our walk, we can't do what we are meant to do. We can't gain the understanding. We can't find out who our Father is, who our Creator is, who our groom is. He's all of these things that we have to find out because they did not know really who he was. It had been how many, like 400 years, right, that they had been in Israel, or I'm sorry, in Egypt. And so at the beginning of that, they had Jacob and Joseph, but as the years went on, and then they began to find themselves enslaved and entrenched in a culture they didn't know. I think that we had that remnant like he always has. So we had Miriam, the prophetess Miriam, and we knew Aaron obviously knew the Creator. And so we had these remnants, but as a whole, these other, hundreds of thousands, million people, however, many there may have been that were actual Israelites, Hebrews, they had kind of lost touch with who this Yahweh was, who their Creator was. And so that is like an important part of their time in the wilderness was getting to know him. And I think we did all that. He always provides a way to return. When we talk about that second chance Passover, he always provides a way. Our tribe for the month is Issachar. So Iyar and Issachar, it's easy to put those together. His name means hired or wages or reward. And you may remember the story between Rachel and Leah. Rachel wanted the mandrakes that Reuben was harvesting. And so she went to Leah and said, give me your son's mandrakes, because they were known to maybe be help with fertility, different things like that is some of the what some of the sages say about those. And so so Leah's reward for selling her, like what she sold it for, was a night with Jacob. So Jacob comes in and she says, you have to lie with me. And she conceived. And this was during the wheat harvest. We know this because it says Reuben came in during the harvest with his mandrakes. And so it was during this time frame, right, up to the wheat harvest, that Issachar would have been conceived. And so Jacob's blessing for him is Issachar is a raw-boned donkey lying down among the sheep pens. When he sees how good is his resting place and how pleasant is his land, he will bend his shoulder to the burden and submit to forced labor. And so a couple of things that I see out of there is that donkey lying down among the sheep pens. So if you don't know much about farming, so I know we have a lot of people who have homesteads and things like that, but lots of times donkeys are used for protection. They'll use them in the sheep pens or goat pens and different things, and because they can be pretty loud and noisy, and they got a good kick. And so I know several people who have some donkeys on their farm that they use. So I just find it interesting that the donkey is lying down among the sheep pens. So not only is he a work animal, he's a protection animal too. And in verse 15, when he sees his land, which he, I might have it on the next slide, but his land was just south of the Galilee, and they had nice land there. It says he will bend his shoulder to the burden and submit to forced labor. And so that burden, donkeys being a beast of burden, we're also going to talk about that in our constellation. So you will sometimes see the donkey on Issachar's tribal banner. And then in Moses' statement about him, he puts Zebulun with him, and he says about Zebulun, he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out, and you, Issachar, in your tents. They will summon people to the mountains and there offer the sacrifices of the righteous. They will feast on the abundance of the seas and on the treasures hidden in the sand. So the mountains, we know the mountain is where the Holy One resides. It's his home, his throne is on the mountain. And the idea that Zebulun and Issachar are working together here. Zebulun's going out. We'll be talking about Zebulun next month. So I think they have the boat on there. If I remember that, I want to say that they have a boat on their tribal banner. And so this idea of going out to get the people and summoning. So, he tells Zebulun, you're going to go out and you're going to bring the people, and they're going to go to Issachar. And we know he says Issachar in your tents, and tents is that idiom for studying Torah and the word of Yahweh. And so there are other verses we find later in 1 Chronicles 12. Issachar came to stand with David. And in verse 40, it says they brought food on donkeys, camels, mules, oxen, great quantities of flour cakes. There was joy indeed. So here they come bringing provision for this, for the new army that was taking place with David. And earlier in that verse 32 says, the sons of Issachar, men who understood the times with knowledge of what Israel should do. So the sons of Issachar sometimes will have a sun, moon, and stars on their tribal banner, because they are people who understood the times and with that gained knowledge, because maybe they knew the times to plant, the times to move out, the times to do different things, because they were knowledgeable of the Holy One, the Creator, his times and seasons, his Moedim. And you can see if you're looking at the screen, and not just listening. You can see Issachar is like the little red blotch up there. It's kind of small, but they're the little red circly part. Let's see. And one of the things, this kind of goes with that last one before I get into the constellation, because this just came up at the end of our feast time. Our pastor sang a song, which I think I'd heard a long time ago, the Prayer Jabez song. And so they were kind of singing it like impromptu, and he goes, "Oh, you guys all know this song." He was telling the ladies, and I think Rhonda was one of them. And so he put it up there, Prayer Jabez. She's like, "I've never heard this. I don't know it." And so it basically is like a song that just does the verse, and it says, "Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. His mother had named him Jabez, saying, 'I gave birth to him in pain.' Jabez cried out to God of Israel, 'Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm so that I will be free from pain.' And God granted his request." So I know there, back in the early 2000s, I think there was like a whole book that was put out about this. And so but really, so the prayer Jabez is not about naming it and claiming it. But what he did ask for was increasing his territory. And he asked twice, he said, "Bless, bless." So again, because we're in the second month, and this is a month of things to be like revealed and that are going to be poured out in the coming month, then it makes me think of this prayer of Jabez. And so I thought it was interesting that it came up at the end of our feast. And then when I was reading through, getting ready, I just kept hearing that prayer of Jabez again, pray, bless me, and increase my territory. And when we increase our territory, it's not so I have all, more power, more things, more stuff. It's so that I can be a blessing to others, right? So if I am walking righteously, it says he was more honorable. If I'm honorable and righteous and I'm increasing my territory, that means that I can give more. And then those who may not be righteous, who may not give with a generous heart, I may be able to take some of their land that they're just hoarding for themselves. I may be able to take some of that so that I can use it to bless other people. So that's kind of what I see when I read the prayer of Jabez. But so I just wanted to add that in with that whole idea of Issachar bringing, they were part of those that were bringing provision to David and his warriors. So our constellation for the month is Taurus. My birthday's in May, so Taurus has just always been, I never, I didn't go by my horoscope or anything, but I was under the Taurus sign, right? But when I looked at my Hebrew birthday, I'm actually in Sivan the next month. So Taurus is not actually my sign. So just something I thought was interesting because looking at Issachar, knowing the times and seasons, my friend Ruth had said that really seems to speak to you, that you like, that you teach on the times and the seasons. And so I was like, that's right. But actually, because next month is Zebulun, they kind of work together. So yeah, just some interesting things there. If you haven't looked up your Hebrew birthday, check that out, because you might be under a different constellation than you knew, or a different tribe. So Taurus is an ox that seems to be coming out of Aries. So the back of Aries, then Taurus, the constellation of Taurus starts. So Aries was that lamb we talked about last month. And we can see the ox as our strong leader. Remember Issachar, we talked about him bearing the burden. We can see ox as our strong leader coming forth in judgment. So, right there in that picture of the lamb and the ox, and this ox isn't like just like a gentle working ox. So there is that part to it, but there was the large ox that they called, I think it's a reem, R-H-E-E-M. There's a shur, S-H-U-R, which is like a regular ox, but there was this kind of ancient, very large, ferocious ox that was a reem. And some people think that is what is alluded to when there's a unicorn mentioned. So sometimes unicorn is what is listed for this horned animal. And so some people think it may have been this reem. And the last one was in like 1627 in Poland was the last one that died. It was in like a zoo or something. And so it was supposed to be evidently a very large, it wasn't a tamed ox. So if we get that idea of, when Yeshua comes back, he's not coming back as that gentle lamb. He's coming back as the lion. He's coming back as maybe that ox who's going to, begin to go out and conquer and bring judgment. The star is Aldebaran, and it's in the bull's eye. So it means the captain, the leader, or the governor. Where they are located in the sky, I thought this was interesting. So when Taurus begins to rise, Scorpio disappears below the horizon. So Scorpio is an enemy figure in the sky. He's the scorpion, right? So when Taurus rises up, the scorpion disappears. Our decans or lower constellations, we have Orion, which I think almost everybody who, is the amateur astronomy can be like, there's Orion, because I see those 3 lines in the belt. He's always my favorite. I always like to see him because I can recognize that one in the Big Dipper. Orion is one of the most recognizable, and he means the brilliant, the swift, he who comes forth as light. We got a little connection there to our Ziv. In Hebrew, the name is Hesiel. I'm thinking of like the woman of valor. I can't get it out right now. But the strong one, or a hero. So again, those are Messiah language. So he's holding the skin of a lion, and we know that it says your adversaries, the devil, walks about as a roaring lion, seeking who to devour. But we know that our Messiah has taken care of him. One of the other ones is called Iradenus. Iradenus is how I'm going to say it. The river of the judge. And this flows out of the foot of Orion. So remember, Orion is our Messiah figure, and this river, fiery river of judgment, flows out of him. And in Daniel 7, we have, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was as white as snow, with the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from him. And there's actually a few more places you will find in Scripture about this fiery stream or fiery flow. You can look those up and do a little study on that. Just find it interesting. It seems to be part of like the judgment. My favorite one that I found in my study is this Ariga, and that's who I have down here on the slide. He is the shepherd or the charioteer. I don't know why he's called a charioteer, because everything else seems to be surrounding being a shepherd. He's seated on the Milky Way, so maybe there's some story about him like riding the Milky Way or something, but I didn't find that anywhere. But what I did find is that he is pictured with a goat or lamb in his left arm, and he had baby goats in his lap. And one of the goats in the picture, you can see it, is like hugging him around the neck. So that it really just amazes me, some of the like detail they put in the story of the picture of, like these few stars that we actually see. But that is the picture that has been seen throughout the Ancient of Days. So the shepherd is gathering his own. And so I just love this picture. This is why it was my favorite. So behold, Yahweh Elohim will come with a strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work is before him. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd, and he'll gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and he shall gently lead those that are with young. And so the beauty of that imagery of our Messiah, our shepherd. He's there and he's protecting too. And in this picture, it shows a band in his other arm or his other hand. And I read that somebody, one of the places say that that's the band that held the fish, right? So Aries had his hand on it, his paw, I guess, his hoof on it. And one of the places said that was supposed to be that band. Another one, it says that sometimes the picture is of a scepter. So either one, I think, applies to our Messiah. So he is the king who is also our shepherd. Doesn't want to advance. Let me go this way, which I always. There we go. Okay, did it on the right one. Okay, so now we have our letter. Our letter is the Vav, the sixth letter, the connecting pin, the tent peg. It could be a hook. Iyar is the connecting month between our declarations from Nisan that we talked about, what we declared, what our speech did, to the pouring out of the truth and spirit in Sivan, which is next month. During this time of transition, there can be lots of questions, figuring things out. Our journey is like the Israelites. They had questions. Where is my food going to come from? Where is my water going to come from? Are we left out here to die? I don't know who this Elohim is. Who is this Yahweh that you tell us about? Okay, we've seen him perform these miracles, but can he deal with us on a day-to-day basis? Can he provide for us day-to-day? So our journey can be like that. So questions are okay. He wants us to wrestle. Wrestling has to happen sometimes. But how do we move on from there? Do we sit in that? Do we grumble? Do we complain? Or are we asking Yahweh for wisdom? Are we soaking in his word? Are we remembering his promises? Do we remember what he told us as we were walking out of Egypt? Do we remember that he said that we were going to be his people? We are not to be murmuring and complaining about what we left behind. And sometimes that happens in our thoughts. It may not be coming out because maybe we think we're over it, but then in our head, we're like, oh, there's something back there I still wish I had. Or it was easier, because sometimes it is, although they were in slavery, it wasn't easier for them in that aspect, but they did know where their food was coming from every day. So we have these things that come up that we just have to deal with. And are we trusting him to be our provider? We'll do that part at the end here. And so our gate is the fish gate. And the fish gate is close to the sheep gate. And the fish gate was kind of where, it was like where all the merchants basically kind of came in with their, the fish probably from the Sea of Galilee, maybe from the Jordan. I don't know what they were getting from the Jordan, maybe even coming in from the Mediterranean. They'd come into Jerusalem. I don't know what that, I don't know if you could get into the Mediterranean at time, but however they did it, they had a gate that was called the fish gate. And so, of course, how can we have a fish gate and not think of being fishers of men? But in Nehemiah, when it talks about those who are fixing the gates and the walls, it says the fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hassanah, which means thorny or to prick. Meremoth is bitterness. He worked on the next section, and Meshulam, a peacemaker, and Zadok, righteous, were also working there. So the jobs of being fishers of men, it can be full of thorny and bitter people. But being a peacemaker counts it as righteousness when we show them the sheep gate. So we have, we're bringing these fish in. That's what we're called to do, to be fishers of men. And so that idea of bringing them in, and sometimes we have to deal with those personality things that they're still working out. And so when we show them the sheep gate, right, that's where our Messiah is. That's where the one who is, he's holding the sheep there. And when we point them toward that, then they can go from being that thorny and prickly and bitter person and begin to let that go, let those scales fall off, really, if you think about it. And then they can become sheep. They can be the cute, cuddly sheep that sometimes can be a little ornery, but that's all of us. But I just really found that interesting that they were close together, and just the imagery of that really was speaking to me. And the Christian Study Library.org is where I have found like more information about the gates. And so on here, they had an article about like learning from those original fishermen. Like they were real fishermen. Andrew was a real fisherman. And who did he bring? What fish did he bring? He brought his brother Peter. And then it gave examples of like Philip and how he ministered to, I think it was Nathaniel he ministered to, and he also to the Ethiopian. So again, he's out there fishing. And so those are our examples at the fish gate. This was a hustling and bustling kind of place. And so a lot of activity happening there. Probably did not smell so great. So again, we have that. Sometimes it's not easy work. Being a fisherman is not easy. It can be smelly. It's backbreaking. But when we're called to do it, we're going from strength to strength. That is what this walk is about in this wilderness time, and just our whole journey, strength to strength. He's called us to it. He's going to give us the strength for it. Some of our other considerations. I hope you guys are hearing me okay. It says that my internet is unstable. I've never had that here at the library, so hopefully it's okay. Other considerations. Our Medot is patience, diligence, and adaptability. Don't these sound like characteristics needed in a wilderness journey? I can't imagine, you're walking out with all of these people and all the things they had, again, learning about the one true Elohim who took them out, but then also having to be in community with one another. They had to learn that in the wilderness. Our sense is thought or introspection. And the Hebrew word for that is hashav. And if you go on Grace and Torah, if you watch the YouTube video that she does for Iyar, she has a great teaching on this. And if you go to graceandtorah.net and you go under her new moons and under Iyar, so just keep going. If you haven't gone there yet, you click on new moons, it'll give you the list of the different months, and there's different things under there. So it'll have the video, a link to the video, but sometimes we'll also have the PDF. And so you can print the PDF of her like transcript, her notes from the video. And it's very, very helpful because you can see like the words that she's using, the Hebrew words, and she goes into great detail about this hashav, and also about the connection with Abraham, the reward, and Isaac, or not, Issachar. So all of these connections about counting are in there that she has. I'm not going to go in them tonight because she does it so much better than I do. But that idea of counting is there all the way back at Abraham, with counting the stars and counting those grains of sand. And so she makes those connections through some of the Hebrew words. So I really recommend going and checking that out because it's full of great, thoughtful information on that. But taking an accounting of our thoughts throughout Iyar, that's what we're doing with the Omer count. We're taking captive those thoughts and we're taking accounting. Why am I feeling like this? Why is this coming up? So be on like hyper alert and aware of those things that are coming up during this month, because they're meant to come out now, because we have to get them right. They're like that's what our walk is about. Passover, getting rid of the pride, getting rid of the leavening in the house. Okay, so now we're building the kingdom. We're working to those loaves that are full of leaven, like the kingdom leaven, not the earthly, beastly leaven, but the earthly or the heavenly leaven. And so we're working toward that. So we have to get that other stuff out so we can get the good leaven in, so that we can be filled up for the kingdom. Our organ is the kidney. And the kidney symbolizes introspection. And I'm going to do a little bit of a reading on this because this was interesting. Every month it seems to be something that the father just picks out. So sometimes it might be the gate, sometimes it might be the constellation. Last month the sheep gate was really getting me. If you guys saw that call or were on that call, the whole idea of him, our shepherd, he's our shepherd and our lamb, healing the man, near the sheep gate at the pool. And so there's just something that just really stands out to me. And this time it's funny that it happens to be the organ, because the organ is the organs that are associated with the months are the ones that I'm kind of least familiar with and in understanding. Like I get it, but I know there's so much more, and it just hasn't been not been like my thing, but this month he said, we're going to learn about kidneys. And so I've got some kidney talk for you. It's the right kidney in particular. So I found, actually, I might have it on the next, let me see if it's on the next slide, because you can see the word. Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and put this one up as we talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about that bitterness and get it to kidney, because it's going to be it's going to be there together. So as I was saying, as we walk with the Israelites out of Egypt, one of the first places they come to, it's 3 days in, they're like, we have no water. This water is bad. It's bitter, Mara, right? And so then Yahweh tells Moses, throw in this certain wood, this certain stick, whatever it may have been, and it sweetened up the water. And so one of the things I was learning about when it came to kidneys and the bitterness, that there's more to bitterness than unforgiveness and resentment. And I think it's in the healing and the Hebrew months for the emotional healing book. There's 3 of those. And so this one is the emotional healing one. She does the tapping exercises. And in there she says, the Bible bitterness is a deep emotional pain, a crushed spirit. So unforgiveness, we know we're not supposed to hold unforgiveness. We know we're not supposed to be resentful, but this is something that goes deeper, just like bone crushing, right? But hope in our Redeemer, like we see in the story of Naomi and Ruth. So Naomi, who had went through talk about a crushed spirit, to move from the place to go to a place of Gentiles and pagans. No one believes like you do. And you lose your husband, you lose your sons, and now you want to go, you're just crushed. I can't even imagine being in that spot. So crushed of spirit. But there was a hope that was given to her through the Redeemer Boaz, when she saw the interaction between Ruth and him and the things that he was saying and things that were going on. She began to get that rekindle of her life back. And so that's where it links us to the kidney. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see here, it's Kilyah. That's a Kaf, a Lamed, and a Hay. And the kidney has to do with it can also be your innermost being. So in the Bible, that word can be used for your mind, your innards, or kidney. It's sometimes so translated as that. There's depending on the verse. But one of the things I found was that Kilyah is strive to attain. It's a completing. It's a yearning. And interestingly enough, I found this commentary in the Journal of American Society of Nephrology, because nephrology is the study of kidneys. In the books of the Bible that follow the Pentateuch, mostly in Jeremiah and Psalms, the human kidneys are cited figuratively as a site of temperament, emotions, prudence, vigor, and wisdom. In 5 instances, they are mentioned as the organs examined by God to judge an individual. They are cited either before or after, but always in conjunction with the heart as mirrors of the psyche of the person examined. There is also a reference to kidneys as the site of divine punishment for misdemeanors committed or perceived, particularly in the book of Job, whose suffering and ailments are legendary. So when I read that and I think about this deep emotional crushed spirit, and I think about the judgment either that someone has put on us, that we have put on ourselves. So I can imagine that Naomi, she's probably thinking like, what have I done? What have I done to deserve this type of judgment, to put me in this place? And so this was like the cool connection that the Father did. This morning, I got back out the book that I used 2 years ago when I started really counting the Omer. I knew that we counted the Omer, but I didn't really think about it. I didn't do it daily. It wasn't a practice that I had yet. It hadn't been revealed to me. And then when we were locked down, we had some time. And I remember reading, "You shall count." And I thought, that is a, I don't know if you can hear it. There's somebody doing the lawnmower or weed eater right outside the window. That's great. But so it says, "You shall count." So I'm like, well, okay, we're supposed to count every day. So I was like looking for some type of devotional, and I just looked online, I think on Amazon even, and found this book. And the book is by, the author is here, "Counting the Omer" by William Mark Huey. And what he does is he goes through the Psalms, not every single one, but he goes through a lot of the Psalms over the 50 days. And he does the Psalm 67 is the traditional one that is read every day, because Psalm 67 has 7 verses and 49 Hebrew words. And it's also a chiasm. And I've actually got a picture of it on here. At some point, you'll see it because there's a really beautiful illustration of it. So anyway, because we had feast and getting back home and getting everything, ready for this class and everything else, I hadn't actually gotten out this book. So last year I did something different. I did Jen Elgin's study that she did for us last year. And so I hadn't looked at this for 2 years, got it back out. So today for my counting is day 10 going in. So tonight at sunset will be day 11. So I read day 10s today and it was very good. And then I just swiped, because I'm on my Kindle, to day 11 and it says a kidney search. And I said, are you kidding me? Like, I knew the organ was kidney and I knew there was something about that bitterness that I really wanted to emphasize for you guys. And I see a kidney search and I'm like, okay, well, what do we have here? And so I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna read all of it for you, but I do just want to read where he says, so this was through Psalm 119. So at the beginning of his book, he goes through Psalm 119 and he goes through each of the letter sections first. And so he was at Kaf, and it says, "My soul languishes for your salvation. I will wait for your word. My eyes fail with longing for your word." Okay, so that's the beginning of it. And he talks about the Kaf. Well, that word for languish is kala. And when he got to looking at that, he realized, in his zeal to learn more, I was led in Hebrew scriptures that the words, those same root letters, which is the Kaf, the Lamed, and the Hey, there's a word kilyah, which is the kidneys. It's used as kidney or mind or the innards, the reins. And for years, I have pondered places where kilyah was apparently used and how it is employed in relation to the mind, the heart, or the innermost feelings. It fascinated me when I encountered various verses where the English translation was mind and heart or something other than kidney, but it was kilyah that was used. So I wondered, how are the kidneys connected to the mind? And I looked for verses to get the feel for what they said in light of the Psalm passage. He's talking about that Psalm 119, verse 80, 81. After all, the fervent plea that opens today's reflection is one's soul languishing for Yahweh. My soul languishes for your salvation. Similar exclamations, although employing the Hebrew word kilyah, are seen throughout the book of Psalms. And so in Psalm 7, 9 through 10, God tries the heart and minds. That's kilyah, which could also be, that kidney. It's also the same word they use for kidneys at times. And then Psalm 16:7, I will bless Yahweh who has counseled me. Indeed, my mind, kilyah, instructs me in the night. Examine me, O Yah, and try me, test my mind, my kilyah, and my heart. And then Psalm 119:13 says, for you formed my inward parts, kilyah, you wove me in my mother's womb. So as consider these verses, remembering David was a man after God's own heart, I was reminded of the times when I had to call upon all of my faculties to implore Yahweh for answers, for help. Have you been there, he asks. Have you ever been up all night, engaging your heart, your mind, and even your innermost being into fervent prayer for something? This is more than simple emotion and trying to reason through an issue with the Holy Spirit empowered brain. You are engaging every part of your being in prayer and supplication. You might even be bent over with your arms wrapped around your waist, simply looking for something to hold on to. Is this what he was referred to, was Psalmist was referring to when he says, my soul languishes for your salvation? So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I don't know if that was for somebody specific or if it was just for me, but when he presented that to me this morning, I went, praise you, Father, you are so good. You've given me something here that is like that tangible to hold on to about these organs, that our whole body works together. And in the kidneys, that is where those deep-seated emotions can be. And so if you find yourself with, pain in that area, really begin to pray into, are there things that you have to begin to work through and let go in that? So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And that takes us into our spiritual warfare. So let's look at the journey of the Israelites. Like I said, this is something that's blessed me by doing what they've done, or this has blessed me by going through their journey with them up through Shavuot. I'm really thinking about okay, what are the Israelites doing today? What, are they gathering their manna? Are they praising? Are they grumbling? Are they complaining? What am I doing today? So the bitter water brings complaint, but Yahweh makes the water sweet. He tells them, if you listen carefully to Yahweh, your Elohim, and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all of his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases that I brought on the Egyptian, for I am Yahweh who heals you. That's Yahweh Rapha. Then they come to Elim. So I just find it interesting. They're funny that they're complaining. And he's Moses is beside himself, and he throws it in there and he tests them. He says, if you do what I say, if you keep my commands, you will not have the diseases that I brought on the Egyptians. And I just almost envision them leaving the gathering water, putting it in their wineskins, going around the corner, and there is Elim with 12 springs and 70 date palms. So if they would have just kept their mouths quiet and kept walking a little more, what blessing is there just on the other side of the curve that we don't see? But he's always working in our favor. Next brings them wanting food. So Yahweh provides the manna and the quail. So he is Yahweh Yireh, the water from the rock. And then a battle with the Amalekites and a visit with Jethro round out the month of Iyar, showing us that his faithful banner is over us. So when he was in the battle with the Amalekites, remember Aaron and Hur had to sit him on a rock and hold up his arms. Just this picture of how needing that support, that encouragement. And so when they won the battle, he says, he made the altar and said that he is Yahweh Nisi, he's our banner over us. And I link that with like his love for us, because I think of our love for him. Because if you have your banner, you're at a sporting event, you've got your banner, you got your sign, you're waving it, you're showing your allegiance and your love for that team or maybe that player. And so why don't we have, or shouldn't we have, that same type of exuberance and love for the Father, because he shows it to us. His banner over us is love, right? I love that song, if you guys know that one. And here is this is out of one of my husband's art scroll books. I just lost you guys. Hold on. There we go. You guys all just disappeared. My screen disappeared. So this is the picture out of our scroll. This is Psalm 67, which is read every day of the Omer count traditionally, again, because it has those 49 Hebrew words and the 7 verses. So that falls right in line with, the 7 weeks, seven weeks of counting and the 49 days. And it's a great one to learn and memorize. And in that, I will say that that's something that's been pressed upon lately too. This last week, with some of my husband's messages lately, with the Torah being engraved on our heart, that we are marked because we remember him. And my husband's thing is to, he's really good at memorizing. I am not so great at memorizing. But he says he takes note cards. He has note cards, and he takes them to work, wherever he's at. If he's driving, if he knows he's going to be waiting somewhere, he has these cards and he's meditating on this one verse every day. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's different. But for the most part, he at least has a note card or a stack of note cards with him that he can just really just meditate. And as he meditates on it all day, he's asking Yahweh about it. He's repeating it. It becomes a part of him. Okay. It becomes a part of him. And so what better way to fight that bone crushing spirit, that crushed spirit that we have, than replacing it with his word. And what we emptied out from Passover, we don't just leave it empty. We have to fill up with the good stuff. So that's my encouragement for you guys for your Omer count, is to really just focus in and let his word become a part of you. And so along with that, and I thought I had this on one of my slides, but I didn't really see it, because I want to emphasize the healing, that this is the month of healing, natural healing. And it could be miracles, but it could just be our bodies beginning to heal. And there is a declaration. This came from the Kingdom Advance Network. There's a couple of ladies that do a month study on YouTube. They're from England, and I just enjoy listening to their accents. But they do declarations for the month. And when I saw this, I heard this from them, it just totally spoke to me, because I know so many people who are in need. And it says, our body is healing. So we're declaring that our body is healing, that persistent ailments, let this be a conclusion of infirmity. So this is the month that those persistent ailments will have a conclusion, that they don't have to continue. And then Proverbs 3:5-10, years ago with some ladies, we were doing a study, and we all would know Proverbs 3:5-6, right? Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. But the rest of those verses after that, 7-10, are fantastic. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh and shun evil. This will bring health to your body, nourishment to your bones. Honor Yahweh with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. That goes right along with the season we're in. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing. Remember that Jabez, that bless me, bless me. He will be filled with overflowing. Your vats will brim over with new wine. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And last but not least, our journey is beginning again. Last month, we declared freedom. And now we have to learn how to internalize those declarations, those are our thoughts, so that we can connect with our Creator, Redeemer, at the mountain where He resides in splendor and glorious light. Are we being divisive by complaining and speaking against authority? Or are we multiplying blessings by our words and our actions, like the number 2? Let's remember that the wages, like Issachar, of sin is death, but the gift of our Elohim is eternal life through Yeshua, our Messiah. He is the Holy One who wants to use this time to show you who your groom is. He is Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh Yireh, Yahweh Nisi. Let Him make the water sweet and rejoice in your journey. Hallelujah and amen. All right. That's what I got for you tonight, ladies. Feel free to unmute. I got about 15 minutes here. They have a meeting tonight here in the library. Sarita, go back one slide. Okay, here.
Yeah, the one that was about the prayer for the healing for the month that you said that the women in the.
I didn't have a slide, the declaration.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the declaration is this is what they said. Our body is healing, persistent ailments. Let this be a conclusion of infirmity. I can send these notes to Sid if you guys want me to. It's only a few extra things that I just didn't have on my slides. Some like the prayer Jabez, some Omer count stuff, and the kidney thing, and then that declaration. But I'll send it to her and have her add it. It's usually like last minute stuff I throw together.
Thank you.
Tish, Kingdom Advanced Network is the name of theirs. They're a little more, they're somewhat more charismatic, but so everybody has their own, like how they flow into it, but I just really enjoy them. They've done month studies. I think they have other stuff out there too, but I've only watched their month studies. Kingdom Advanced Network. If you look it up and put in Iyar, you'll find they haven't done I just watched the one from last year because they don't have the one from this year up yet. So let's see. Is there anything over here on the, oh, someone put in the link for your Hebrew birthday. Awesome. Could you help me out with the bullet point from the last slide? During the wilderness, gaining understanding. Let's see. Hold on, Danielle. Are you still on here, Danielle? Okay. Okay. All right. I'll just go back to share screen. And I can't think off the top of my head which one that might be. So I'm just going to go back here and see what we get. If anybody sees the one,
it was
because I can't.
Sorry,
beginning.
Yeah, it was towards the beginning, maybe like third or fourth.
Okay.
This one. Thank you.
Oh, that one, numbers. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, during the wilderness, gaining understanding is pivotal to our walk. Are there any other slides while I have them up? Maybe I went through too fast. If you're on your, I did send these slides to Sid. So I always send my slides as a PDF to Sydney, and she posts those for me. So they will probably go up tonight or tomorrow. I don't know if they go up with the video or when she gets them up, but you'll have these slides, and you will also have Rhonda's month thing. And so I put these up. There should be one for every month. I don't think I've missed one yet. So
are the classes no longer in Kajabi?
they should be.
I couldn't find it, like the link or anything.
I don't know. I haven't like looked lately because I don't usually watch. I usually don't watch
Yeah.
the call,
Okay,
but I haven't looked. But I'll check into that.
okay.
I thought it was, 'cause I thought I just saw it yesterday.
Okay.
Hi, Sarita. How are you?
Hi, Marcia. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Yay. We miss you.